Yo, so just returned from my regional championship in Prague. And yeah, I did it. I placed 21st and qualified for my very first Pro Tour, which has been my biggest goal for a few years. So yeah, I still can't believe it's actually happening. It's gonna be June, Pro Tour Las Vegas. I think the formats have not been announced yet, but yeah, I'm really excited going to America as well for the very first time. So on the screen you see that deck I actually played. It's Black-White Death in Texas or Black-White Blink, however you wanna call it. I actually was planning to play Kiruga like 1.5 weeks ago, but last Monday I decided to play the Magic Online qualifier with Black-White Texas just to test it out, because I was just playing it for a couple of leagues earlier. And I actually managed to top 8 that event, going 8-1 in the Swiss. So yeah, I think this deck is very powerful, especially in the current meta game. The only real bad matchups are Storm and Eldrazi, even though I beat Eldrazi twice in this tournament. I'm not gonna go over all the matchups, I'm gonna post them in the description, and we're just gonna look at 2 feature matches I had. The first one is versus Domain Zoo, and I'm just let the commentaries do their talking, and I'm gonna jump in if there's anything I really wanna talk about, like some plays I was considering. And yeah, I know I've not been uploading a lot on YouTube here lately, but if you wanna see me play more, just follow me on Twitch. Check out the Twitch stream, like on the weekends usually in the morning. I'm definitely a lot more active there. I'm gonna leave the link in the description as well. And yeah, let's just check out the feature matches.
Picked up this deck for this weekend, decided probably that Elementals was a little too cute and not good enough, and wanted to give himself the best chance to win, so he went with a similar strategy.
So the game is underway. Marcus is going to start on a survey land. How do you feel about this matchup? Is it going to be another, game where it's going to be really hard for the French player to stick a thread, considering all the cards like Skyclave, Apparition in Marcus's deck?
Yeah, someone who played the deck a lot described this deck as Solitude deck. You just cast Solitude over and over again. Getting back with Overlord, you blink it, you have Ephemerate. You can bring it back with Emperor of Bones as well. So it might be tough. I'm taking a look at the, what does the white black deck have to get rid of Leyline plus Scion. That can be scary. And not an awful lot. There's 4 Witch Chanter, which is the double face card, but that can take a little time to get online. So I guess like in a lot of matchups, what Leo was looking for was Leyline Draco, ideally. But yeah, free Fatal Push, 4 Solitudes, the, couple White Orchid Phantom in the main, 2 more in the sideboard to attack the 5-color mana base. So I would assume the Blink deck has an edge in this matchup.
Or it looks like Territorial Kavu is the play for Leo on turn 2. All right, there we have it on the screen. And there's the Overlord. Yeah, I think this card is also just, super popular online, just in general. What maybe perhaps didn't seem as good when the card came out. Now, I think it's one of the best cards in the entire set.
Yeah, it was a little less obvious. It doesn't get back the other Overlord, so when they all got printed, people were playing a bunch of Overlord decks, and this one has the best synergy because you need to play other types of creature. But people figure it out a way. You saw it in Greasefang, you see it in Pioneer, you see it in this deck. Just enables so much. Really powerful card. Good on turn 2, good on turn 5. Good with the blink effects. Good with Zur. In this deck, you can blink it with Flicker Wisp, for instance. Yeah. Comes back as a creature right away. You can blink it with Sphelia.
That for me was the biggest realization. I was looking at the Modern list. I'm like, wait, why is this card so good in Modern all of a sudden? What's the trick? And then we're talking about all the cards in the deck. I'm like, oh wait, it works with Flicker Wisp. It's actually in play. It's not like Suspend where the card is in the exile zone. It actually is already in play, so you can blink it and it comes back.
Yeah, Flicker Wisp, really cool card. Pretty good. There's a lot of tokens you can blink on the opposite side. It's actually pretty nuts against Belcher too. If you blink the lands, they just don't come back because they're spells, so they come back on face up, and you basically stone rain them. We see this game, Leo able to stick Kavu, no push, no removal, no Solitude, got to connect once. He did decide to exile Avon, which is fairly low impact, I would say. So that must tell Marcus that Leo really likes his hand. You know, if he's not willing to rummage, you know, discard draw was a.
So let's stop here for a bit. Like, Domain Zoo is one of those matchups that you should probably be in the defensive role. Especially I see my opponent's deck list. He's playing 4 Lightning Bolts, he's playing 4 Tribal Flames. He's starting with pretty aggressive, turn 2 Kavu, turn 3 Sign of Draco. The main priority here is to remove the creatures before I try to pursue my own game plan. Also, he's leaving up a white mana, which tells me he's representing Leyline Binding, so if I go for the Flicker Wisp on Overlord, he's just gonna Leyline Binding it, which is only temporary. I do have Witch's Enchantment, I can Flicker Wisp the Leyline Binding, stuff like that, but I don't really want to do that when I'm looking at 9 power on the battlefield, so I'm choosing to first try to remove his creatures before I try to do any funny blinking stuff. So I'll just start with Recruit of the Guard, get my Solitude. Already had a couple of Flicker Wisps in hand. I had a Skyclave Apparition. So what I could have done is, as example, Skyclave Apparition the Kavu. And then maybe my opponent plays Leyline Binding on the Skyclave. Then he has again 6 power on the battlefield, hits me for 6. I'm already down to 15, so that would be down to 9, and that's pretty sketchy. So I just chose to go really on the defense mode. Recruit of the Guard, get the Solitude. Just try to handle the board.
There's a Kavu ability. That's the ability you use, I don't know, 4 out of 5 times. Maybe in this format a little less, because the graveyard hate is relevant. But, you know, exiling creatures, sure, it's based around Overlord, and you're recreating your creatures from your graveyard, but you're pretty good at just self-milling some more, etc. So yeah, exiling that sensor really means that, you know, we see, you know, he had Scion, he has like another Tribal Flames, he can double spell next turn Frog plus Tribal Flames, so Leo just happy with his hand right now.
Recruiter finding a Solitude, so a much needed removal spell there for Marcus, who is staring down a 5/5 and a Scion who is going to eat the Solitude, it looks like. Exiling another Interrupter. Okay, looks like that resolves. Leo gains a little bit of life. And Marcus passes the turn.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a strong reason to just do it main phase, but if you think you're going to do it no matter what on the Draco, why not? Counter spells on Leo's side is 2 copies of Stubborn Denial, 2 copies of Spell Snare.
Yeah, Spell Snare not all that effective, right? There's a lot of 3-drops. You have Either Vial as well, which is really good against counter spells just in general.
Yeah, we see Recruiter chumping, no trample on the Kavu. And
there's a Frog.
Yeah, it looks like Leo decided to go with the exile effect again. I do like exiling a Solitude a little more than I like the Even Mind Sensor.
Just want to deny the recurring effect.
Yeah, the potential recurring effect. The Bling deck is good at just finding more Solitudes though, so kind of hard to do.
Marcus cracks a Marsh Flat, finds himself another Mana Source.
Yeah, still a full grip. Every card in Marcus' draw just replaced itself so far.
I think I do see a couple of Flicker Wisps.
Flicker Wisp would be huge, right?
Yeah, get that Overlord into play.
You could be worried about Leyline Binding.
Wide Orchid Phantom.
Yeah, and we see Leo kind of stuck with a Spell Snare that he can't cast. He does have the Binding though.
All right, so Binding takes care of the Overlord here. Triumph is gone.
Yeah, it's tough. Leo feels like he has to use his Binding, and the Overlord is a better target right now. The problem is he's setting himself up for potential disaster if, you know, Marcus has Witch Chanter down the line, destroy the Binding, get back my Overlord, get the trigger, get it, you know, as a creature. So definitely a risky play, but
Yep. There's the
It could pay off, yeah.
There's the Emperor of Bones, and yeah, as you mentioned, pays off that Leo was able to exile that Solitude previously, so exiles a Recruiter of the Guard instead. And is it double tribal? No, that's a Tribal Flames and a Lightning Bolt. So
Yeah.
Leo is actually pretty close
There's a ton of reach,
to
yeah.
finishing the game.
Yeah, kind of a quote-unquote naked Emperor of Bones. He played it, but didn't have the mana to activate it right away. Could be a threat next turn, so we'll see what's the sequence here. Does he go for creature removal? Does he try and burn Marcus out? Maybe a combination of both.
So Lightning Bolt takes care of the Phantom.
Yeah, he's getting rid of the Phantom because the Phantom has flying.
So there's the attack. The Kavu exiles the Phantom.
He was probably worried about just a chum block on the Frog.
So 6 points of damage coming in. That put Marcus at 8. Oh wow, he is actually going to block with that Emperor.
It makes kind of sense. If you let it through, it's an extra card for Leo. If you block, you force Leo to discard a card. You know Leo is not looting with Skavu, so you know Leo likes his hand, and he's likely to have 2 relevant cards in hand.
That makes sense. Yeah, discards a Spell Snare, which wasn't particularly useful until now. So that makes sense for Leo as well. So the Frog grows to 2/3. That takes care of the Emperor. And Marcus drops to 9, I believe.
I think the Kavu got shrunk to a 4/4.
Oh, you're right. There's actually no green source. Yeah, you're right.
The White Orchid Phantom did a little mana denial, a little color restriction.
That's a Skyclave Apparition and one-off in Marcus's deck. Looks like that's going to take care of the Frog.
Yeah, he had a couple options. He could have played Flicker Waves, Bling the Frog, reset it as a 1/2, and potentially try and block it. He could have Blinged the Binding just to get the Overlord trigger, but then you get to bind the 5/5 again.
Leo continues attacking, exiling Marcus's creatures from the graveyard. It looks like Marcus is going to chum block again, so really valuing that life total, recognizing the power of Tribal Flames. Leo's going to make a token here.
Yeah, I feel like that one might be a little conservative. Can you tell if the Kavu is back to a 5/5? It's still a 4/4, right?
Yeah, I think that's a Steam Vents, Blood Crypt, and a Plains.
Yeah, that one. I didn't mind the block on the Frog last turn, or I guess I didn't mind the Bolt on the White Orchid last turn because that would have been a decent chump. I didn't mind the Emperor chumping, but that one seemed a little weird to me. Just feels like maybe if he gets to untap a couple more times at a decent life total, he's gonna win. And that's, I think that was a top deck. I think that's the play we're talking about, and that's just a massive blowout.
The Witch Enchanter here, absolutely brutal, destroying Leyline Binding. Now the Overlord comes back. Emperor is the pickup from the graveyard for Marcus, and he passes the turn back now with a great board position. Wow, Leyline, not exactly what Leo wanted to see.
Yeah, this is where the Kavu exiling did a little work. Note that the Overlord brings back any creature from the yard. It doesn't have to be one of the 4 you milled.
Yeah, look at that. I think Leo was going to play Tribal Flames on the Overlord, which is a 5/5, and then caught himself realizing, wait, I don't actually still have the green source, so this wouldn't actually kill the Overlord. And yeah, that puts Leo in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, he's going to have to attack just to loot away a useless card, and potentially 2 for 1 himself if Marcus blocks was the Overlord.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see if Marcus chumps again was the Witch Chanter, or if he's like, okay, you probably have a Burn Spell or a Bowmaster. He might put him on Bowmaster and be like, this is not a good trade for me. If he knew it was a Tribal Flames, he could be like, okay, I'm okay with trading Overlord for a Tribal Flames and a Kavu.
Yeah, Marcus has been playing very conservatively, so let's see what he does. He does block the Kavu. Yeah, perhaps just realizing, like, hey, I actually want to kill it. As long as I get it off the battlefield, I just want to protect my life total, use that Emperor, bring it back.
Yeah, the longer the game goes for Marcus, the better it is. The Zoo deck has really powerful cards and pretty low land count, but it doesn't really have card advantage. It doesn't have a card like the Overlord. It doesn't have synergies to gain card advantage. Doesn't play something like Expressive Iteration.
And I wonder if this is the point where Leo says, I'm actually going to keep that Tribal Flames. Now I have the Flooded Strand. That's going to be able to find me a green source. So me here burning the Overlord doesn't maybe make that much sense, because I would just be playing not to lose. Like, eventually you're gonna start getting more card advantage. I know you have that Emperor in your hand. So do I want to kill the Overlord and kind of leave myself with nothing?
It's tough because the Overlord can just find Solitude, and you can even start exiling your own creatures once
That's true.
You have so many cards and get out of Burn Rage.
So Leo decides to kill the Overlord, but Marcus has another one. Yeah, this is...
Yeah, you're right. It is pick your poison. It is like bad options.
There's a Solitude. Wait, is that a Solitude? No, looks like Marcus picks another Witch Enchanter, plays that as a land, passes the turn back. Yeah, and I think Leo is stuck with just a Stubborn Denial in hand. Marcus at 10. And looks like the game is slipping away.
Yeah, in hindsight, he probably should have just gone Tribal Flames face and literally hope that his tough cards are not a Tribal Flames. You could have figured out that Marcus has, probably spells in hand, not lands at this point. So you could have just gambled, it's tough. It's really tough.
Leyline, not the best draw for Leo, passes the turn, and now I think Marcus is pretty quickly going to be able to turn the game around.
Yeah, you can't even assemble a Scion node that you can Flicker Wisp your Witch Chanter, that's a land, and it comes back as a creature. That's a cool play you can make. You kind of, play them as the land early in the game when you need the mana, and then down the line you can... doesn't work with Ephemerate, obviously. Doesn't work with Philia, because Philia is not land, but it does work with Flicker Wisp.
Emperor of the Bones.
Yeah, now we're just going through the motions at this point. Just my black deck took over.
Yeah, there you have it. This is why Overlord of the Baelmerk is so powerful in this Orzhov deck. Yeah, Leo sees the writing on the wall and scoops it up. So yeah, that was a pretty good game one.
That was really interesting. It was a lot of tough decisions, I feel, on Leo's side, whether to loot, whether to, try and keep the binding. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Sure, it's 1 mana spot removal, but it can really backfire in this matchup, and it end up doing just that. So just kind of tough spots, and I'm not sure other decisions would have, led to a win there for the French player.
It looks like Marcus's conservative play really paid off, recognizing that I don't want to get burned out by the burn spells, and if the game goes long, I think my cards are going to be able to take over. I have so much value that I can just throw away a couple of creatures to chum block at 10 life or so. And yeah, that did pay off, because that Tribal Flames was just a couple damage short. Here we're taking a look at the sideboard. So this is what Marcus is working with. Anything that stands out to you that you think he might be bringing in for this matchup?
No slam dunk. White Orchid Phantom's nice, but I think there's still 2 basics in the Zoo list. Also, it's not that exciting when there's a Leyline in play. Thoughtseize could be decent on the draw. Especially against this version, that you don't have to worry about turn 1 Ragavan, which can be a little scary. If they go turn 1 Ragavan and you go turn 1 Thoughtseize, that's not a very good trade. But in someone who's relying on just all 2 drops, I could see that one coming in specifically on the draw. And Plague Engineer, not the worst, gets rid of Bowmaster tokens, the orcs, and gives you a Death Touch blocker against Kavu specifically. Wrath the Sky is all expensive, all awkward. That's not for that matchup. So yeah, nothing super exciting, but probably doesn't need a ton either.
Yeah, I like the thought process here. Normally playing against a Zoo deck, probably don't want to put in a card like Thoughtseize that makes you lose a life by casting your own card. But if you're playing against a 2-drop dot deck, that does actually make sense to bring in a Thoughtseize and try to disrupt that curve. Here we're taking a look at the sideboard of the Domain Zoo deck. Anything you like here?
Domain Zoo sideboard. Consign to Memory is maybe needed. It's good because it counters the Ether Vial, and it's especially good because it can counter the blink back effect, meaning that if you blink an Overlord or a creature with Philia or Flicker Wisp, you counter the return trigger and it just stays in exile forever. So if he feels like, you know, he has some weakish main deck cards, he might go for that angle. I don't think Rest in Peace is worth it. Stubborn Denial, not very good. Wear Tear, you know, Disenchant on the Overlord. That doesn't feel like a winning play, but it does get Vial and Enchantment, so, you know, I could see 1 or 2 coming in. And I don't think Pyroclasm is how you want to attack that deck either. It's somewhat situational and not always going to be high impact, but maybe, you know, maybe a one-of can be decent.
Yeah, I really like that consign trick. I think a lot of players might not be familiar with how exactly that works. So the fact that there is a trigger when the card is coming back from the exile zone that you can counter, that is just a super cool interaction that, you know, a lot of people might not be familiar with.
Yeah, for Leo, he has 2 main decks, Stubborn Denials and Spell Snare. They do stuff in this matchup, but it can be a little awkward to keep blue mana up. It can be a little face up as well. You know, in theory, Denial can counter an Aether Vial on turn 1. It can counter a push and Ephemerate down the line, but you know, against heavy removal, it can be hard to have the Stubborn Denial be an actual negate, and Spell Snare feels a little too narrow for me in this matchup as well.
Shout out to our Twitch chat. I see you guys have been really enjoying the show so far and really enjoying, you know, interacting with Gabe and, you know, all the emotes, and looks like everybody's having a good time. Judging by the smiles of the players in the feature match area, looks like they're having a pretty good time as well.
You see smiles?
A quick reminder, this is round 12 of Regional Championship Prague. We're playing 14 Swiss rounds, so 2 more rounds after this one before we get into the top 8. And yeah, you can take a wild guess who is currently behind the cards on screen. Who's the operator of that behind the scenes?
Yeah, the players, good record so far. You know, playing for that top 36, so they need probably X3 or better. $20,000 for the winner.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Trip to Worlds.
Yeah. I wonder where Worlds is going to be. I hope WotC comes with something really cool, like, okay, guys, we're doing Worlds in the Bahamas, or, you know, we're going to Dubai, or something super cool.
Yeah, free Pro Tours in the U.S. this year. I wouldn't mind the U.S. again if it's Hawaii.
Right. Oh, Hawaii. Yeah.
One of the players' favorite destination, maybe the best, you know, Pro Tour destination.
One can dream. All right, game 2 is underway. Marcus once again starts with just a tap line, no Aether Vial, and Leah also doing what you highlighted earlier. My first instinct when seeing this Domain Zoo deck was, why no 1-drops? Where's Wild Nacatl? Where's Ragavan? Where are all these cards? If you're aggressive, you really want to start on a 1-drop. But what you said really makes sense. In this deck, with the 5-color mana base, you do very often spend your first turn cracking the fetch land, finding one of the Triumphs, one of the triple lands, or one of the survey lands. So that makes a lot of sense that it doesn't actually leave you with much space to play the 1-drop while still getting your correct mana sources.
Yeah, we see a Wear Tear as Leo go for his deck. I also saw a Leyline Binding. I could see just completely cutting a Leyline Binding in this matchup, just not wanting to get blown out by the Witch Chanter again. You know, a bit of an awkward card, especially the longer the game goes, the more likely this sequence, you know, might happen. So it'll be interesting to see if Binding helps Leo at all this game. Captain Stubborn Denial.
Yeah, interesting.
He might just have trimmed, you know, kept like a bunch of 1-ofs, a bit of everything, because you're okay drawing, you know, the situational cards as a 1-ofs, but if you draw multiple and they're dead, then that's when it's really, you know, being down a card or a card that doesn't do much in your hand is fine. If you have multiples, that's where things get really bad.
I like that you have the Kavu. You can afford to keep in a couple of the situational cards, because at least with the Kavu, you're often able to rummage them away. Although keeping a creature alive against this Orzhov deck has proven to be quite hard. So Thalia is the play on turn 2 for Marcus. Instantly eats a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, it doesn't want Marcus to be able to save his creature with an Ephemerate. Great, you know, with Solitude, with all the synergies, but sometimes it's just, you know, save my creature for 1 light.
Yep, makes sense. There's their Overlord, so Let's take a look what Marcus mills over here. There's a Vile, couple land, Bowmaster, Solitude. Okay, so Solitude is the pickup, perfect card for Marcus here, who just wants to keep Leo's side of the battlefield clear for the time being. See a Flaich in hand. Oh, that's a good draw. Psychic Frog. The question is Leo going to be able to stick a threat or like protect those creatures against all the Solitudes and Skyclaves and ways to bling those cards? Yeah, I feel like we got Domain Zoo in the feature match area twice, and both times it kind of played an impossible matchup, right? The green-black deck with 4 copies of Abrupt Decay, like, you know, good luck trying to protect your creature with Stubborn Denial. Now it's Orzhov Bling with, you know, all these ways to find Solitude and all these ways to remove the creatures. Just kind of feels like an unfortunate pairing.
Yeah, no, not what Leo's hoping to expect. I think you're hoping for combo decks a lot with the Zoo deck. You know, you stick a creature engine and then you just have a couple counter spells, a binding, a lot of interaction, burn them out. So you have a fast clock, you have a bit of card advantage with your creatures and some counter magic. Then you know you get more good options after sideboard. But these mid-range matchups or decks filled with removal, just kind of a nightmare. We see Marcus with a full grip again.
Yeah. 18 life.
Just Leo praying that somehow his cards in hand line up well, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
All right, there's the play you highlighted earlier. So Overlord of the Balamurk in play. That's the key part. It is actually in play. It is not suspended. So there's a Flicker Wisp, and Marcus is targeting the Overlord. So,
and this is where Consign would be amazing, or at least, you know, really helpful for Leo. And you know, maybe if you haven't played that matchup, or I know that when someone mentioned Consign as a good card against the white-black deck, when I was playing the white-black deck, I hadn't realized, you know, the whole like counter the comeback effect, and it might not be intuitive if you've never played the deck or haven't discussed the matchup that you should be bringing that card in the matchup, that it's probably better than something like a Binding, something like Stubborn Denial. Imagine if he had Stubborn Denial instead, he's not exposing himself to the Witch Enchanter blowout.
Yeah, I think you only really know this if you play a lot of Magic Online, where the triggers, you automatically see them on the screen when they happen.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And here Leo was able to exile the Overlord in response with the Leyline Binding, but he can't feel too good about that because the Overlord has already given Marcus value in the form of getting him a Solitude. So there is a Flage that takes care of the Flicker Wisp. Okay, that's going to allow for the Psychic Frog to attack and perhaps draw Leo a card, unless Marcus decides to cash in the Solitude here, but with no mana left over for a potential Ephemerate.
I was going to say, I think it's the first time the Frog draws a card in the 4 games we've seen.
Yeah.
Nope. Frog denied once again. We did see the Kavu, you know, trigger a bunch in game 1, but that was not good enough.
So Marcus decides to 2-for-1 himself.
And he knows what's coming, right? Marcus just played Witch Enchanter as a land, so he knows Marcus has something really good.
Yeah. There's the Emperor of Bones. And we're going to exile that Flage. Thank you very much.
That's a classic sequence in Modern right now. Just sandbag your Emperor of Bones until Flage goes to the yard. You know, make sure you get at least that value, and that's another huge blow for Leo, who's kind of, you know, you can tell from the body language here, not loving life right now.
Yeah, you're so close. You're like, oh, okay, just give me 2 more, you know, Boros decks, something aggressive. And yeah, okay, well, it's a removal dot deck.
Yeah, Domain Zoo, once again, best win rate on day 1, 58%. Not a deck I expected, honestly. It was arguably the best deck in Modern at some point in the past year. I think maybe before Nadu, before the One Ring. I forget the time period, but it was everywhere. Then people had to adapt. You know, you saw these sideboards. There was 4 Pick Your Poison to get rid of the Leyline Draco. There was a lot of, you know, I remember I was playing, you know, sweepers were decent. A card like Supreme Verdict was another way to get around a Leyline plus Scion of Draco protection. But I don't think players expected that deck to be popular at all, and it might be a decent counter to Temur Breach.
But I think this is just Modern in a nutshell. I think that's, you know, that's what makes the format both beautiful and also sometimes frustrating at times, is that there's so many different decks. You can prepare for a tournament and say, okay, I have a good matchup against, you know, most of the tier 1 decks. I'm feeling really good about my choice. And then you get paired against something you maybe didn't expect. But there's, you know, 40 different decks that can win a modern tournament on any given day. So it's just really hard to prepare for everything. You only have 15 sideboard cards to work with, so sometimes you're just going to run into a bad matchup. Fatal Push deals with the Emperor. Looks like Flage is... There was another Flage put into Leo's graveyard, so
yes,
that's a plan.
So he used a Flage on Emperor to make Marcus tap out and potentially bait out an Ephemerate, and then use the Fatal Push, just because he wants to get the Flage in the graveyard anyways, and he's like, okay, I'm missing out on free damage to Marcus's face, but I'm not valuing that right now. I'd rather make sure the coast is clear, make sure I don't get blown out by Ephemerate.
So Flage makes it onto the battlefield. End of turn, Marcus flashes in Ophelia. Yeah, now Leo's got to feel like he finally got something going, right? But
he's got the Flage, but I think Marcus just drew a Witch Chanter, so he can...
Destroy the...
Yeah, destroy the Binding, get back Overlord, get back a Solitude the Flage, playing the Overlord, get it over, yeah.
Man, Marcus really likes value. Judging by the decks he's playing, all the Omnath and Elemental stuff, and all, you know, this white-black deck, he really likes value.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder, you know, the percentage points Marcus won this weekend from people. You know, it's not a new deck; it's a known quantity. If you pay attention to what's going on online, you know, Magic Online results, but maybe people have been. You know, I'm not even saying we haven't exactly seen every card in Leo's deck. Maybe he did bring in the consigns, but you gotta wonder if people are not like misboarding in the matchup.
Yeah, that's possible. That is also a beautiful thing about Modern. You can bring a deck that's perhaps not on everybody's radar, and then they're not going to know exactly how to play against that.
Yeah, it is a huge point. Like, Consign is in... If you're playing blue in Modern right now, you have Consign in your sideboard, and if, you know, you keep playing against people who don't bring that, you know, arguably, you know, their best tool against you off their sideboard, it's a huge win.
So yeah, Marcus pitches a Solitude into a Solitude, gets rid of the Flage, attacks, gets a bunch of value, and I think the writing is on the wall. There's a Kavu and a Tribal Flames for Leo, but looks like he's just kind of trying to survive. But given how many cards Marcus is working with...
Yeah, that was just methodical, this match, honestly. Just... Leo never really saw the light of day. It looked like he maybe kind of came somewhat close in game 1, but
I think Marcus's hand has 2 more Solitudes. I think Leo is hellbent, so
oops, all Solitudes.
Yeah, oops, all Solitudes.
XDD time for the sewer deck. I'm kind of offended. Orzhov Blink. I think it was who was it online who was saying I'm not gonna call it sewers.
All right, more blinking action with Phalia attack. Leo had a pretty high life total, but yeah, the game is slowly slipping away. Maybe not that slowly. And now we're talking about when, you know, end of turn triggers. End of turn has already started, so if I flicker with this now, it comes back at the end of your next turn.
Ooh, Leyline.
Not what Leo wanted to see. Now the Kavu comes back.
Can literally feel, yeah, Witch Tanner to get rid of it.
That was another Overlord for Marcus. Yeah, I mean, this game really makes the Orzhov deck look really good. But that also looks like a very good matchup for it. So Overlord milling a bunch of creatures. Looks like the Enchanter is going to be the pickup. Yeah, it's going to get pitched into Solitude. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think Leo is really hoping for the Leon Sign Draco draw, because it can take a little while for the white-black deck to get rid of the synergy, but yeah. Congratulations
to Marcus. That was a clinic. There you have it, black-white mid-range. This is why the deck has been so popular on Magic Online recently.
Yeah, it's really fun deck to play too.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. Like, you know, if you like doing all the things, if you like value.
So yeah, both games went really well for me. Game 2 especially, opponent didn't really stick a threat in the beginning of the game. So I was gonna be the aggressor and start off with Failure into Overlord, into Flicker Wisp, be more proactive. And yeah, so we're 10 and 2. So the next match really decides if we're gonna make top 8 or not. And it was also featured, even though we were the backup feature match and game 1 was not shown. But basically what happened game 1 was my opponent had again a pretty strong draw with naturally drawing Haywire Might, which stopped me from flickering my own Overlord on turn 3. And then he just overwhelmed me on turn 4 with multiple Flashbreaker Broodscales. I had to double Solitude. Next turn he went Broodscale again into Traverse for lethal. And even if I saved my Solitude and not killed the Flashbreaker, he would have just reversed for Emrakul. Game 1, he had really strong hand. And yeah, let's jump into game 2.
Blade says whenever a creature dies, put a counter on equipped creature. Broodscale says when it gets a counter, make a spawn, which you can sacrifice to get a counter, which you can sacrifice to get a counter, and so on. And then you make infinite mana, win with Walking Ballista, Kozilek's Command, or Glaring Fleshraker. But this deck is also like an Eldrazi Temple deck and a Malevolent Rumble deck with Emrakul, right? So it has this other avenue with that one Traverse to like play a different type of game plan if he needs to. And we've seen Theodore before beat Mono Black Necro by just 1 point of damage when Necro was at 1 life.
Yes.
And eking out that victory. Here, Theodore has won game 1 and is up against Markus Leicht, the streamer RespectTheCat, who has already won a big modern tournament here in Prague before and is now playing for top 8. These players, this is table 4, so it's the last match was table 5. So these are playing for the exact same things as the last match was playing for. Loser is out of top 8, winner is very live for top 8, can possibly draw in.
Yeah, and we see here the deck Orzhov Blink. I mean, RespectTheCat, but playing here very good dog, which is Felia. I mean, this card really good in the blinking deck. And tell us more about this blinking deck and the potential to see it here on a top 8.
They should maybe change the name to Respect the Dog because of how much work Felia is doing in this deck. Yeah, this is the breakout deck for Magic Online for just like a couple weeks ago. And it's all about like blinking Overlord of the Baelmerk. This one that can like, you know, recur creatures from your graveyard, find creatures in your top 4, put into your hand. You're trying to get as many Solitudes as possible. That makes it kind of tough for Theodore to make his creature combo work in the face of all of these Solitudes. But that's why the advantage of Theodore's deck is that it can play on multiple angles, and Theo was able to take game 1 here. This is a post-board game, so we might get to see some hate like Stony Silence preventing the re-equip of the Blade of the Blood Chief. And we might also see Wrath of the Skies as a sweeper that can kill Ursa Saga and all of these Eldrazi spawns that Theodore is creating.
And I have to say, I really like to see streamers also compete, and we have sometimes Iliad the Dragon as well competing here in the scene now. RespectTheCat, we saw Canister, of course, Andrea Mengucci, so very nice to see some faces to the public. And yeah, now we have here both players starting this game too. As you said, Theodore is 1 game up with Mono Green Broodscale, and yeah, RespectTheCat here going to try to win now game 2.
So Theo has an interesting sideboard card in Vexing Bauble, which prevents cards from being played for free. And yeah, that could actually come into do work against Solitudes. Here we see which enchanter being played as a land. Markers being the super lazy here, doesn't even bother flipping it around. So now we just have to look at this, you know, creature being upside. But for this coverage, don't worry, that is a land that taps for white mana.
Yes. But can actually be blinked, right? And then becomes the creature.
But can be blinked and then will become the creature. So yeah, Marker's just reminding us of what is in our future. As Theodore leads off from that Springleaf Drum, which is a one-off in the deck and just something you can find with your Ursa Saga. So he's going to play out the Haywire Might, and I think he has the Broodscale in hand, but might play it slow. Yes, so Theo here is playing it slow, playing just Ancient Stirrings.
Let's see.
Finding, yeah, Kozilek's Command and 4 lands. So he's probably more interested in the Kozilek's Command.
Makes total sense. So getting that Kozilek's Command, we have seen a lot of these cards throughout the weekend. And yeah, Felia is there, but deciding, let's see when attacking if deciding to blink anything.
Okay, so my opening hand was actually really good. I had Failure in hand, I had the Overlord, I had Recruiter. The only thing I was missing was the 3rd land. And unfortunately, I did not draw my 3rd land. If I did, I could go Recruiter, Flicker Recruiter, get 2 Solitudes and be super safe. But the only thing I can really play at this point is White Orchid. I also had Ephemerate in hand. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is White Orchid my opponent's land, then flick it with Failure, and I destroy my own land. So I can get the Swamp. Next turn, if I don't draw the land, I mean, it really sucks. I have no defense if he has the combo. I can just go Overlord and try to find the Solitude. But let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, so kind of funny here that Theo drew both of the, actually a lot of one-ups here, also the one of Wastes and the one of Haywire Might and the one of Springleaf Drum. So now, this White Orchid Phantom is going to come down, kill the Grove of the Burn Loyalists, and force Theodore to go and get a Forest in his deck. But he has 3 copies of Forest, so it's not really that big of a deal. It just means that he doesn't have access to, well, essentially the Grove of the Burn Willows is just there because it's a colorless source that can also produce green. And since he already has the Waste, he doesn't really care about this.
Yeah, so attacking that with a Failure, blinking that White Orchid Phantom.
He might actually care about it because, well, first of all, the White Orchid Phantom can target any land, right?
Yeah, enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target, non-basic.
Oh, non-basic, so it's the same situation as before. Yeah, but actually, Theodore might not have a second colorless source to be able to play that Kozilek's command. So it's not like we've seen in the Eldrazi decks. And here's a Boseiju that does not tap for colorless. So this White Orchid Phantom just proving to be more effective than you might seem. And actually, it went ahead and killed Marcus's own Witch Enchanter, getting a Swamp, because Marcus was stuck on just 2 lands without black mana, but in this way managed to fix himself. And here we actually see the fair mode of Broodscale coming down, being able to just adapt that right away and make a spawn, and the spawn will be your second colorless source.
Yes. And yeah, that it might be exactly what we see. We also see that Failure now is a +1/+1 counter on it.
He also has the Blade of the Blood Chief in hand.
Ooh.
So he actually has the combo ready to go if Marcus is, with his defenses down. Of course, Marcus playing 4 copies of Solitude never really has his defenses down. So the way we see Theodore play here is that the way we see Theodore play here is that he waited with putting a counter on the on this Broodscale here in case that a Solitude was happening in response, kind of preferring to blink first if he can. And now we see this Overlord of the Baelmerk bringing back, that's a beautiful thing about killing your own land, is that it turns into a creature in the yard. So Overlord of the Baelmerk can bring it back, and now Marcus has found his 3rd land through this crazy roundabout way of blinking his own White Orchid Phantom, killing his Witch Enchanter, and getting it back.
So working very well. We can see how this deck can be super powerful, attacking here with Failure and also the White Orchid Phantom. Now, what can Failure do? So looks like Failure is going to blink that Overlord, but in response, we are activating that Haywire Might to get rid of that Baelmerk. It's now exiled and gone forever, gaining some life in the process. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the exact reason why Theodore didn't tap out to put a counter on the Broodscale, so that instead he could leave up this Haywire Might and get rid of the Overlord of the Baelmerk, not letting Marcus, go further through his deck to try and find that Solitude. I'm not even sure he has Solitude in his hand at the moment. And if he doesn't have an answer, then this Broodscale will just be able to combo right now, because Theodore has the Blade of the Blood Chief. So here we see the White Orchid Phantom being blinked with Ephemerate, targeting the Boseiju, and this actually lets Theodore spend his mana a little more efficiently, just putting a counter on the Broodscale right now, making an Eldrazi spawn, getting another land here, and now he can play the Scimitar and equip it, and then sacrifice the spawn, and that will start the loop. So if Theodore wants to, he can just go for the kill right now. He has a backup Broodscale, so the worst thing that can happen is not even that bad.
So let's see if Marcus does have or not that Solitude, and we don't think so, but...
Yeah, it really doesn't seem like it. Just the Scimitar resolves. use the Springleaf Drum to equip here, sacrifice. Do you have anything? Make infinite mana, Kozilek's Command, scry my entire deck, and draw a card, draw Ballista, Walking Ballista for 44 damage.
So yeah, I did not draw my third land, so I could never play my Recruiter that I had in my opening hand, and he just comboed me. You know, it's a 22 land deck. I kept a 2-lander on the play, but I think the upside was just too high. I had basically everything I need in my hand, except the Solitude and the third land. But yeah, I lose. He wins. So I'm 10-3. And one more round, I was paired against the Magic Online player at the mainland. He was on Eldrazi. And we looked at the standings and decided that if we draw, we can both make the Pro Tour. So that's what we did. I really did not wanna play this matchup. I had played it twice before and I won both of them. And I don't think this is a good matchup. So I don't really wanna try again. And yeah, that's it. We went 10-3-1, 21st place, qualification for the Pro Tour, and also 1,600 euros in prize money. And I'm super happy. This was my third RC. The last RC I played was in Ghent. I went 11-4, and by 1 point did not make the Pro Tour. So super happy it happened this time, and I'll see you guys next time.